Hello, I'm glad that we're back. I'm not dying today. I still got up at my normal time and I was fine, so I'm glad that I got over the sickness. I'm telling you guys, you get over the sickness quick if you tell yourself that it doesn't last that long. Um, it's January. We're going to talk about change. We're going to talk about change. We're going to talk about change all month. Um, does anyone even know what the fuck that means? You know, the definition of change is just to alter, like modify, change something in terms of make different, I guess would be the simplest way to explain it. I think one of the other good ways to explain it is to replace something with something else, right? And typically when we're talking about personal development, optimization, we're talking about replace something with something else that's better suited for you, not for everyone, but maybe for you. So I want to talk about how important it is to make change in your life. Um, and for it to be at the forefront of your mind. I can't believe more people don't think about it more often. One of the only things that you control in your life is your own internal mechanics, the way that you think, feel, and act. Those are yours. Those are your ownership, right? That's your entire life. Now, I don't think anyone would argue that they can't learn, right? One of the things that distinguishes us from other things on this planet is our ability to learn things, right? What's the definition of learning? Is to gain or acquire knowledge, right? So in order to make change, you have to learn. I don't think anyone would argue that they don't think that they need to learn and grow. Think about what that means for your personality, this thing that you've deemed as like your identity, this uh, self-written identity that you've come up with is all due to change. You've been changing since you were born. Every single year that goes by, you've gained a new skill. You primary education up from 0 to 18. You're learning new things. You're changing your routines. You're changing the things that people place on you as a responsibility, right? You were learning. You were learning things. You learn how to fucking eat food, and you learn how to use a spoon when you're young, and you learn how to talk, right? So every part of your soul, every piece of who you are is so fucking rooted in this continuous, like elongated sense of change that it's impossible to write off as one of the most important things in your life. It just is. Think about that. If you hadn't been learning and changing this entire time, you wouldn't be who you are now, right? Does that make sense? A lot of people get so rooted into this concrete idea of like, this is who I am. No, fuck you. This is who you became, dipshit. You became this way by fucking habitual action, domestication that's happened over long periods of time, habitually. That means that the you that you are currently is just a fucking amalgamation of those experiences. Now, I'm not writing that off as some fucking simplistic confluence of forces. All those things were based on decisions. That's what this whole thing is. If you guys don't understand the fuck I'm talking about, take control of your life is to start to be the driver of most of those decisions instead of being a listless fuck who kind of just lets the universe toss a bunch of fucking shit at them and they just react. You know, we always used to say, like, you know, smart people are proactive, dumbasses are reactive. That makes sense? So think about it this way: change is going to be your route and your path out of anywhere you don't want to be towards places that you do want to be. Now think about how fucking valuable that map would be if you were in some sort of doomsday scenario, like something cataclysmic where it was the apocalypse. That would be the most important piece of information ever: how to get from somewhere you don't want to be to somewhere that you do want to be. How do you make changes? What are these long periods of time that we're talking about where you do things on repeat? Those are called habitual action, habitual construction, right? You habitually construct who you are from doing. You know, if you go, oh, well, when I was in high school, I was a soccer player. Well, you weren't just a soccer player because you fucking said that. You were a soccer player because you were using words to define habitual actions that you did that were parts of your journey. So things that you did consistently enough to go, that's something about me now. When you use these simple examples like that, you can kind of see how it's not any different to embody something like patience. People that you know that are patient, do you think that everyone you know that is patient is just someone that was just born as the most like patient and understanding and compassionate person? No, they might have had some sort of propensity to be a little bit more patient. They might have lower levels of like wrath or anger, sure, but even that was domesticated on them. That means that it's changeable. So if there's internal attributes that you're like, man, you see someone and you go, wow, I want to be like that. All you have to do is habitually act the way that they act. Now, the part that makes this hard is that old habits die hard. When you're talking about replacing something, when you're talking about making change, you're talking about replacing something. That's an important part of that definition. Now you're talking about replacing something and then sliding something new in. Well, unfortunately, that new habit doesn't have any space when it's already taken up by this amazing amount of space that's doing the negative behavior that you want to change. So most of the time, people get it wrong. They start trying to kind of like lump this new habit on top of a shitty old habit. That's why you hear so many people talk about subtraction, subtractive lifestyle, right? In the beginning steps, if you have a lot of fucking shit going on in your life that you want to change, if the things are drastic, that means you have a lot of bad habits built in now that are things that you've habitually constructed and now have become ingrained in you. Now they have to be broken. Breaking something down is fucking hard. Realistically, they don't have to be broken down. They actually have to be let go. That's something I'm going to talk a little bit about later in this week. But regardless, think about that. So you need to get rid of this piece so that this new habit can slide in. That's the first life hack I want you guys to think about, is that if there's a change in behavior that you want to make, but that change in behavior is going to be impacted or impeded by a behavior that already exists, that you don't need to start by thinking about starting this new behavior. You need to go through the phase of subtracting this old behavior first. That's called temperance. I'm going to acknowledge and notice something that I'm doing, and I'm going to go, I don't do that anymore. Perfect example, using the example of patience again. If you want to become more patient in your life, you're not going to just start by just trying to be patient. You're going to start by trying to minimize your judgment, anger, all those negative things that make you impatient. False expectations, all that stuff. So start trying to minimize your levels of anger, hot-headedness. When you feel that thing come up and you want to get pissed off, exhibit temperance and go, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to do anything. So think about it that way. You're almost impeding yourself, but because anger is the issue. It's not even that you don't know patience yet, is that you're on the other side of that spectrum. So you're still like reacting to things immediately and being reactive. And so instead of going, oh, I just want to be more patient in my life, start by thinking, man, I need to be a little less judgmental and I need to be a little less reactive today. Then you won't go in there just trying to choke everything to death. It'll just be these little micro tweaks of like something comes up, get a little bit agitated. Oh, I can take a space before I respond. It's as simple as it is to develop the skill of patience. Same thing with building like a concrete habit. Like that was an internal example. Like that's an attribute. It's not necessarily a physical action, right? Exercise. Exercise is a perfect example. Most people say, well, I don't have time to exercise. So the thing that you need to do is make time. You need to figure out in your schedule where you can actually even exercise, right? So instead of going, oh, well, I'm going to exercise this year, it's about trying to get rid of something that's in the way of you exercising. Most of that is mindset stuff, and it's just a lack of discipline and accountability for sure. But another big part of it is like all these behaviors that stop you from having discipline and accountability. If you drink 4 nights a week, or if you always drink on your weekends and you wake up with a fucking hangover, it's pretty easy to see that that's not going to be the day that you wake up and fucking go crush and exercise. So it's normally that little bad behavior that needs to be nipped out. These same things we talk about with like eating shitty food and negative behaviors of like stay up late on a phone and look at a screen all the time and then go, oh, I don't hit my wake up times. It's because you're trying to start a behavior and you're not fucking changing all the behaviors that are like linked into that successful new habit. So just understand it is complicated a little. It's simpler than you make it, but it is complicated. You do have to fucking be thinking. You have to be introspective. You have to be analyzing. You don't want to overanalyze, but you do have to be thinking about, like, why are these things happening? Why didn't it stick? Like, you got to go into this thing of almost like manic fucking like continuous thought process of like, what's going on internally right now? What's going on internally right now? What's going on internally right now? What's going on with me right now? What's going on with my fucking week this week? Did I do good this week? I can't believe that more of your fucking internal dialogues don't sound like that. Your guys fucking sounds like, oh, I can't wait until I go do this thing. What time is it? It's so fucking confused, and it's because you're not thinking about anything that's actually related to your like soul, or your like who you are. So stay tuned for the rest of the videos for January. I'm gonna start to market a little bit, so maybe some more people will watch them. We're going to talk a lot about change, and we're going to talk about some little life hack stuff to kind of help maybe like make change, and again, to pinpoint the common pitfalls of habit building, and then give you the tools to kind of overcome some of those so that it's not quite as hard. It's still always going to be hard, but one thing you want to know about tackling something that's hard is that you want to use every fucking resource, every single tool you can get your hands on, every piece of motivation, inspiration, any person you could find, any support system. You're going to want to use all those. Anything that's hard, you're going to want to be prepared, and you're going to want to use as many tools as you possibly can, because those just make the job easier. So that's kind of common sense. So start thinking about change this year, who you want to be, where you want to be, and hopefully we can help a little bit.